Hi there. Today I'm going to start a reversible. I had a request to do a reversible vest, and I've done it once, but I did it with music in the background, so it didn't turn out very well. Anyway, this is the American Girl. I made this with a real pattern, so in case you want to follow along, it has the shorts, a reversible vest, and then I just threw in a baseball cap. But anyway, I used two different types of denim. I used just your plain blue denim, and then I used the, I guess you'd call it a paisley print denim, but it's all denim. And then I used the shorts in the pattern also, but I put a little cuff around the bottom, or just a highlight around the bottom. So that is the American Girl. The pattern I used was Simplicity 1902 OS. So basically what I'm going to show you how to do is how to do this vest right here. And I'm going to use some of the fleece that I got at that quilt store down in Harrison, Arkansas. So anyway, there she is, and this is what it'll be like. So it's reversible. So let me take her cap off. So this is basically the plain blue side. So we can put that on the opposite, so she can wear it either way, and you'll have a reversible vest. There is, if you want to, you can also put in like the frogs or the closures, or you can even put in a like a piece of lace, not lace, but ribbon, if you want to put a closure on it, or a loop and a hook, or however you want to do it. But we're just going to do a plain vest so you can see what it looks like. And there it is at the back. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, I'm going to use the fleece that I got at the quilt store, and we're only going to be using two pieces. Let me see if I can find the pattern. We're going to be using piece 5 and piece 6. And that is, piece 5 is your vest front, which is your right and your left, and then we're going to be using piece number 6, which is the back. So I've already transferred mine to regular paper. So that is, let's see if you can see on that, that's the back, and then we've got the two front pieces. So I looked for the smallest piece of fleece that I could find, so I'm going to go ahead and be able to fit that pattern right here on this edge. So I'll be able to get half of the vest out of that one piece. And then the other half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some dark brown corduroy. I don't know if you can see that, but I think those two together would make a beautiful combination. And I have so much of this brown corduroy that I can make long pants, I can make a skirt, I can make so many things, and I can even make another baseball cap out of it if I want one. Okay, so I'll be back and we'll get started. I'm going to go ahead and make this vest for the Journey Girls instead of the American Girls. So what I did is I took my pattern over to my printer, and I went to my copy menu, and I decided to print it at 90%. It still fits the Journey Girls, but it's just a little bit too baggy. So by doing just that little bit, I am going to be able to get a better fit on the Journey Girls. So now that I've got piece 5 and piece 6 copied at 90%, I am going to go ahead and print these out in, trace these onto my freezer paper, so I'll be able to cut them out of my pattern. Okay, let me get that going and I'll be right back. Okay, I've cut the fleece out. I got to tell you, this fleece is almost like fur. It acts like fur, it feels like fur, it cuts like fur. So I don't know, I guess I would call this more fur than fleece, but I ended up getting the pieces cut, but I ended up having to use my lint roller because I had so much fabric everywhere. Okay, this is brown corduroy. Corduroy has a nap on it. If you feel it, you can tell that it's rough when you go one way and it's smooth when you go the other. So when you cut corduroy, you always want to cut it with the nap going down. so it'll look smooth and it'll feel smooth when you're in the right direction. So most of your patterns will come with a arrow on here. So if you're not familiar with the nap of a fabric, you want to line up the nap of your fabric. So if your arrow is up and down, that means that's the way they want you to line up your nap. So I made sure all my pieces on the second part of the vest is exactly the same nap as my fur. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to get my sewing machine set up and we'll get started on sewing this vest together. Okay, here we are. We're ready to start going. I've got brown thread on my machine. I'm using a universal needle. I've cut out the two front pieces in fleece, the back. One thing you got to know with the corduroy when you're using the freezer paper, corduroy tends to ravel. So when you're pulling your paper off, be gentle on your fabric, otherwise you're going to end up with a bunch of raveled corduroy and you don't want that. So just be gentle when you're pulling it off of your paper. Okay. Alright, so we've got back piece and two front pieces on the corduroy. So your first step on a reversible vest is we are going to sew the shoulder seams on both the fur and the corduroy. So let's get started. So with the right sides together, make sure you're doing the right side of the vest like you're making a vest. Put your right sides together and make sure that your pieces are in the right spot. And then you're going to just sew a 1/4 inch seam. You're going to sew the shoulder seams together on both sides. So that's step one on both the fur and the corduroy. Okay, I'm not going to make this so long, so I'm going to shut down and then come back after I have those sewn. Okay, so here's where we're at. I've got, it's over here for reference. I've got the shoulder seam sewn on the fur, and I've got the shoulder seam sewn on the corduroy. And so this is them both being opened. Okay, so the next step is you're going to sew around the neck here and here. And the reason you're going to do that is because you don't want to sew the arm seams right now until you get this neck part done. This is the steps you have to go through so you can turn this inside out as you're sewing it. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to line right sides to right sides, and your next seam is going to be from here all the way around the neck and then down to here. And then once I have that, so pin your seams open so you don't have a mess. If your fur gets caught in your sewing on your shoulder, don't worry about it. You can brush it out after you're done with the whole vest. You might as well not even bother trying to do it now because more of your fur is going to get caught in the sewing, the rest of the sewing. Okay, so open that up, and then you're going to do that line of sewing, and then I'll come back after I sew that next seam down to the whole front of the piece. Okay, I've got the pieces pinned. I wanted to make a mention of the first vest that I did on the, this was a mink vest, and I didn't say to sew all the way down to the front edge like this because it was a rounded bolero type. So what you're going to, if you are dealing with a rounded bolero type vest, you're just going to want to pick a point somewhere. I would go maybe halfway down or something that you can pick up later. I think I came down to about, I don't know, somewhere around here the last time I sewed this vest. I didn't go all the way to the seam, so because you can't go all the way to the seam. So go ahead and pick a halfway point and stick there if you're dealing with a rounded type vest like this that doesn't have a square front. So that's something to keep in mind. But because we are dealing with a straight square vest in this case, we can go all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so I've got it pinned. I've got it all the way pinned, and I'm going to just sew all the way around here like this. I've got my seams open on both pieces. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I should have mentioned this. When you're sewing with this fleece, it has a tendency to want to stretch. So let's see where the camera is. When you're sewing, put the corduroy on the bottom or your solid fabric on the bottom, depending on what other fabric you're using. If it's cotton on cotton, you don't have to worry about it. But if you are dealing with a stretchy fabric like this, you want to put the solid fabric like the cotton or the corduroy on the bottom, and go slowly as you feed this fur fleece, whatever you want to call it, through the machine. Don't let it stretch out on you, because that will warp your pattern or your two pieces completely. I didn't have all that much trouble with the mink that I use, but this fleece is sure wanting to pull badly on me. So just go slow and sort of like force it to tuck itself in so you don't stretch it out. And hopefully you can get it. I tried to do it the other way and put the fur on the bottom, and I couldn't even sew that way. So we'll see how this did. Okay. Now I didn't even get enough seam on this side. Alright, now that that's sewn together, I'm going to re-sew it and see if I can get a full 1/4 of an inch on this side. I had no idea that this fleece would act like this. Never knew it. Okay, so I guess I should have tried sewing on this before I did a video with this fabric. But anyway, okay, I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be alright. I'm going to go ahead and put another seam on here so I can get my full 1/4 of an inch on the corduroy. I don't have to worry too much about the fleece because, like I said, it is just really, really stretchy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and re-sew that a little bit in the areas that I missed on, and then I'll be right back.